Good evening. Welcome back to Ponzinomics. I'm Alex.
Evening all, I'm Sam. Tonight is different. Every episode we've done on this show has been a post-mortem, a completed story. Tonight, for the first time, we're covering something that hasn't finished yet. The patient is still on the operating table, and we genuinely don't know how it ends.
FC Barcelona, founded 1899. One of the most celebrated institutions in the history of sport, and currently carrying over €1 billion in debt, while renovating a stadium they can't quite afford and competing for trophies they need to win to pay back the money they borrowed to sign the players they needed to win them.
More than a club, just not more than a Ponzi scheme.
That might be the most brutal sentence we've opened with.
We'll see if it's earned by the end.
Let's start with what Barcelona actually is, because this isn't just a football club. Founded in 1899 by a group of Swiss, Catalan, German, and English footballers led by Joan Gamper, Barcelona became, over the following century, something far beyond sport. It is a symbol of Catalan identity. During Franco's dictatorship, when the Catalan language was banned and regional nationalism was suppressed, Camp Nou became one of the only places where Catalan culture could breathe. The club's motto, Més que un club, more than a club, is not marketing, it is history.
And the ownership structure is unusual.
Completely unusual. Barcelona is owned by its supporters, 140,000 members called socis who elect the president and vote on major decisions. It is not a billionaire's plaything. It is a democratic institution, which makes what happened to it both more surprising and more depressing.
A democratic institution run by elected officials that managed to accumulate €1.35 billion in debt. Democracy in action.
On the pitch, Barcelona have been, at various points, the greatest team ever assembled. 5 Champions Leagues, 28 La Liga titles, the Guardiola era from 2008 to 2012, Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Puyol, produced arguably the finest football ever played. They won 14 trophies in 4 years. In 2010, the 3 best players in the world, as voted by their peers, all came from Barcelona's own academy, La Masia, a youth system that produced genius rather than buying it.
Which makes it all the more remarkable that they managed to nearly destroy themselves.
It starts with one transfer, one departure. The 22nd of August, 2017. Neymar Jr. left Barcelona for Paris Saint-Germain for €222 million, the most expensive transfer in football history. Barcelona received the money, and then they panicked.
222 million from a Qatari-owned club for a Brazilian playing in Spain 2 years before Qatar hosted the World Cup. Completely above board, no questions whatsoever. Carry on. They panicked.
They needed to replace the world's second best player. Immediately. Desperately. And desperation in the transfer market is the most expensive emotion known to football.
Tell me about the signings.
Philippe Coutinho, €160 million from Liverpool, intended as Neymar's replacement. He made 106 appearances over 3.5 seasons, played out of position to accommodate Messi, never delivered value remotely proportional to the fee. Barcelona were still paying Liverpool money for Coutinho years after he'd left the club.
Next.
Ousmane Dembélé, €148 million from Borussia Dortmund, 20 years old. Messi's replacement number 2. Over 6 years, he made 185 appearances, but missed 141 matches through injury and fitness issues.
141 matches missed. That's more games injured than most players appear in their entire careers.
Antoine Griezmann, 120 million euros from Atletico Madrid. This one came with extra drama. Exactly 1 year earlier, Griezmann had publicly rejected Barcelona in a television documentary called The Decision, saying his heart remained at Atletico. Then he joined anyway. Atletico disputed the transfer fee, claiming Barcelona had illegally approached him before his release clause dropped. Barcelona eventually paid an additional €15 million penalty. Griezmann scored 35 goals in 102 appearances for €120 million.
Coutinho, Dembele, Griezmann. That's €428 million on 3 players who between them couldn't replace one.
And we haven't even talked about the wages underneath all of that, because Coutinho arriving for 160 million didn't just cost 160 million. It set a benchmark. Every other player in the squad looked at what Coutinho was earning and demanded a renegotiation. Dembele's arrival did the same. Griezmann's did the same. Each catastrophic signing inflated the entire wage structure. By 2021, Barcelona had players earning fortunes who weren't even getting on the pitch. Tapped up, played out of position, or permanently injured, and still collecting. The wage bill wasn't just Messi's contract. It was a decade of panic buying, creating a salary inflation spiral that consumed everything.
And then there's Messi himself. In January 2021, El Mundo published what they claimed were the details of Messi's contract. A 4-year deal signed in 2017 worth, in total, €555 million.
Say that again?
€555 million. $138 million per year in fixed salary. A renewal bonus of $115 million for simply agreeing to sign. A loyalty bonus of $77 million. Daily earnings after tax, €210,000 per day.
Per day.
By 2021, Messi had earned $510 million of this contract. Barcelona's wage bill had reached 103% of total income. They were paying out more than they were earning. Every euro coming in, and more, was going straight back out in wages.
And then COVID hit.
And then COVID hit. Camp Nou, which generated hundreds of millions in matchday revenue, made €25 million in the 2020-21 season, an 84% decline. The club posted losses of €481 million in 1 year. Negative equity of €451 million. Total debt of €1.35 billion, with nearly $600 million of that due within 12 months.
Any private company with that balance sheet would be bankrupt.
Essentially insolvent, yes. And here is the moment that crystallizes everything. In August 2021, Lionel Messi, Barcelona's greatest ever player, the boy who joined La Masia at 13 years old, the man who had given them 6 Ballon d'Ors and 4 Champions Leagues, who had offered to take a 50% pay cut to stay, left. Not because he wanted to, because the club literally could not afford to register his contract under La Liga's financial fair play rules. The greatest relationship in football ended by a spreadsheet.
He offered to take 50% less, and they still couldn't afford him.
They still couldn't afford him.
So what did they do?
They invented something called economic activation levers. La Liga has financial fair play rules that set a salary cap based on a club's financial health. Barcelona were so far below their cap they couldn't register new players. The levers were mechanisms to unlock that cap by monetizing future assets now. They sold 25% of their television rights production studio for €300 million. They sold portions of future La Liga TV rights, revenue they haven't earned yet, for over 400 million. They borrowed 500 million euros from Goldman Sachs.
They sold future television money they haven't received yet to spend now on players to win, to generate the revenue, to repay the money that they borrowed against the future television money.
That is precisely correct.
I've heard this story before.
The summer of 2022. Having unlocked the levers, Barcelona went shopping. Robert Lewandowski, Rafinha, Jules Koundé, Andreas Christensen, world-class players, signed. Then, Barcelona spent weeks in bureaucratic chaos trying to activate enough levers fast enough to actually register them with La Liga before the season started. Some were registered at the last minute. The club was simultaneously signing players and desperately scrambling to prove they could afford to field them.
They signed players they couldn't legally put on the pitch.
For weeks, yes. And the Camp Nou renovation, the Espai Barça project, is running simultaneously. One of the world's great stadiums being rebuilt to increase capacity and revenue. Cost estimates have ballooned significantly. More debt, more future revenue being borrowed against.
So where are they now?
La Liga champions in 2024 to 25 under Hansi Flick. Playing brilliant football, winning. The levers appear to have worked, at least so far. Revenue is recovering. The wage bill is lower. New players are registered and performing.
So it's fine.
That depends on your definition of fine. The debt is still enormous. The TV rights that were sold are years of future revenue that won't arrive. The Goldman Sachs loan needs repaying. The stadium renovation needs financing. The entire structure only holds together if Barcelona keep winning, keep filling Camp Nou, keep generating Champions League revenue, keep attracting global commercial partners.
And if they don't?
The mechanism that borrowed against the future requires the future to arrive as planned. It always does. Until it doesn't.
Here's what I keep coming back to. Barcelona didn't get here through fraud. Nobody stole the money. There's no Andrew Fastow running shell companies in the background. This is something different. This is a democratic institution, owned by its supporters, that elected presidents who spent money the club didn't have, on players who didn't perform, built a wage structure that consumed more than it earned, and then solved the problem by borrowing against tomorrow to pay for yesterday.
The mechanism is identical to everything we cover on this show. The borrowed future. The gap between appearance and reality. The structure that requires everything to keep going right.
More than a club.
More than a club.
Just not more than the oldest story in finance.
This is the first episode we've done where we can't tell you how it ends. Because it hasn't ended. Barcelona are winning. The levers are turning. The debt is being managed. But the fuse is still burning, and we are genuinely watching in real time.
So, this time it's different.
Ask us again in 5 years.
That's the most unsettling thing I've ever said on this show.
Next episode, we leave football and go back to pure fraud. To Texas. To a woman named Elizabeth Holmes, a company called Theranos, and the most audacious lie in Silicon Valley history. She claimed her technology could diagnose hundreds of diseases from a single drop of blood. It couldn't. Billions of dollars, patients receiving false medical results, and a trial that gripped the world.
This time it's different, right?
Probably not.